Yerushalmi Shabbos. In the article Ozbar edition, when the ninth line down on Daf Tet Zayin Amud Aleph, Rabbi Shem ben Barkan, Rabbi Shem Rabbi Acha, and that in the Vilna is on the top of Yud Gimel Amud Aleph, the third line down. Rabbi Shem Rabbi Shem Barkan said, "Shabbos or Eva," but it's all like Rabbi Shem laws. And now the Korban Eidim, the emotions say Shabbos means artzug over here about Akum doing work with Kiboles, which we learned about yesterday. When contracting is mutter, when contracting is osir, depending on whether it's in your city or in another city, and so on and so forth. Avel, they say that it's, the Korban Eidim says that Avel is not allowed to hire a daily employee during the time of Sabelus, Akum, and that it's a non-Jew. You're not allowed to rent out your house to a non-Jew if it's going to put Avodah Zorah in it. But many of the Rishonim learned that it's different. It's about completely different issues of Shabbos and Avelus and in Akum. For example, in terms of Avelus, to learn that he's talking about whether about mending a rip one does for the mitzvah of Kriya, and the Avodah Zorah. It's about Lifnei Yedeim, doing commercial activity, and even about Shabbos. It's about Sukkot and Cloud Gadol, which are going to come on later on, not about our Sukkot over here. So obviously there are many different interpretations, again, in the Rishonim, Ramban and the Bahag, as to what these three specific psukim are in terms of Shabbos, Kibboleth, and Shabbos, Ovel, and Avodah Zorah. Okay, so it says next Gemara. Emshal Eagles be Yad Aku. You don't send letters in the hands of a non-Jew. Lo be'erev Shabbos, lo b'chamisha Shabbos. Not on Friday, not even on Thursday. And Beisham Harosim Afilu B'Revi. So it says you're not even on a Wednesday, but it's still material. And it still says you're permitted, but only it seems they're only going on Wednesday, not on Thursday and Friday. Amar Rabbi Yosef said by Rabbi Zakoin, he never would give a non-Jew a letter because that's the non-Jew take it on Shabbos. Nowadays we're makel to send letters even Erev Shabbos, even most posts are makel, even express mail, because the non-Jew is not working for us; he's working for the post office, and also because it's this Mechutz Chum doesn't pertain nowadays the same way it once did, because the movement out it's no longer, again, since they're no longer working expressly for us, they're working and bringing lots of pieces of mail from mostly for non-Jews, so therefore it's not an issue. Okay, in any event, ask your local Orthodox rabbi about that if you want to know Lachol Maisa. You can't go out on a sea trip. The Tubi Yerushalayim brings down that there are actually four reasons for this. He says the Rambam says because of Bittul Einik Shabbos. The Bamora says because you might have to be Mechal Shabbos. The Ramban says because the non-Jew is going to have to work for the Jew on Shabbos, and others say because of a zera that you might come to make like swimming. You might come to make flotation devices. And then the Bishon goes into a brief discussion of all those reasons. Okay, the says the Gemara. So for all these reasons, you don't go to take a sea trip. Lo be'er Shabbos, lo chamisha Shabbos, be'sham osim afil be'revi. Similarly, be'sil be'sham here too. Also, even on Wednesday, be'sil be'sil says it's mutter, and even out to on Wednesday. Mi'adavar shel sakona. Now the it says in Gemara, from Tyre to Sidon, which is a short trip. So the Tubi Shlaim says the proper gersa should be davar shel shchuna. They're adjacent to each other because that's what the Bavli says. That's the reason why is because it's a short trip, not because there's any sakona involved. Ephraim suggests to say that it should say im loya davar shel sakona go mitzvah letidon it's mutter. I mean, it's a riot for the Baal Mor that holds that the issue is sakona, and here there would be no sakona. The Ran says that the reason is because you might get seasick, and they're going to have to do Chal Shabbos use. They're from Tzor to Tzidon, which is a short trip. It's mutter because there's no concern they're going to get seasick. Okay. It says the Gemara further. You don't lay siege to a non-Jewish city less than 3 days before Shabbos. Obviously, he was concerned about Chilul Shabbos and all sorts of other issues. The other thing, it's only about an optional war. It's a mandatory war, which normally wars of protection or wars of conquering Eretz Yisrael. I feel with Shabbos, it's permitted even to lay siege on Shabbos. Ella b'Shabbos. So the Yericho was only conquered on Shabbos. It says, "Quote says Sheshes Yamin." This is what you do 6 days. That's surrounding with when they made the processions around Yericho. It says, and on the seventh day you should surround the city 7 times. It says, you make the war till it goes down. Hafilu b'Shabbos. This is the plain Moshe point said, this is very about Chemes Rishus. And the Elachim has been saying, Chemes Rishus now means Schilu Mikoin. They start previously, Amos seeking, don't stop on Shabbos. You'll see, I read it to complete the battle, Afilu b'Shabbos, even on Shabbos. The Yerushalmi Shabbos brings down a reciting of the Emunus Deus. It says, different than Yerushalmi, he says that Yeshua did not fight on Shabbos because all he did that day was go around with the Aron and the shofars, but a war, there was no war on Shabbos itself. It seems to go against Yerushalmi. We should mention Tyson Erevin holds that according to Beis Mem Gimel holds that according to Beis Hill, you're allowed to go out on a sea trip even on Arab Shabbos. There's a long discussion with Shoinin, the Rashba, the Ravon, a lot of discussion about the how to understand the Yerushalmi about Beis Hill, where it says Beis Hill Matir in our Sugya. But again, the Pashto on the Yerushalmi is that they're Matir on Wednesday, not that they're necessarily Matir on Thursday or Friday. Okay, you don't give hides to a tanner. Nor clothing to a launderer, Nochri, who's not Jewish, unless they can complete the job before Shabbos begins. But cool in all these cases, to give them as the sun is setting. Shingamliel said, "No, you base Abba in my father's household. The custom was they give white clothing, which evidently requires a lot of laundering. Shabbos 3 days for Shabbos. Shaman Elu ve'elu Tony across base about So basically, both agree that you can put the weights on in a olive press and wine press right before Shabbos. Okay, so says Gemara ad Echon. So the Beis Hillel said right before right before Shabbos. So is that literal? Now that's going to Korban Eda, the Beis Hillel, the Korban Im Hashemesh, and but the Beis Moshe says ad Echon is going on Beis Shammai. What's considered to be enough time that should be done mi bod yom, and obviously it's a major nafkamina. So according to Beis, I gave a command to Rabbi Yochanan Shem Rabbi Chunya akde hiluch arba mil. The amount of time it takes to walk 4 meal. So again, according to Korban, it's going to Beis Hill, and according to Beis Moshe, it's going to Beis Shammai. So according to the Korban Eda, you'd have to do things all these things for nightfall. And according to the Moshe, no, that's only going to Beis Shammai. Going to Beis Hill, you can do it right till nightfall. I'm saying major nafkamina. The Yerushalmi Kibshuta points out that in the Bavli Sagdav Memvav it says the amount of time it takes to tan or hide is the amount of time it takes for 4 million. So it's evidently that in the indication that's going to be Shammai. It's saying how long it takes before Shabbos takes 4 meal. The Vikah, the Korban says not to be Goris, the word Vikah. So it's a new thing here. So if you find if you you gave your laundry to a non-Jewish launderer, and you find him laundering on Shabbos, it's awesome. You're not allowed to put him on Shabbos. Korban points out that even so, you're not allowed to put him on till after Shabbos. Even if he contracted to do it, since you know he did it on Shabbos, it's also to wear them on Shabbos. The He's got to tell him if he finds him working on Shabbos, not to continue working on his clothing on Shabbos. Amar Rabbi Yehuda avoid Rabbi Matana. Rabbi Yehuda, the father of Rabbi Matana, said no. No. That shows that the system working is when the non-Jews do it for you as a favor, for the benefit of your gratitude. But if he's working for wage for a fee, he can do whatever he wants. He's doing his own work. He's not doing it for you. He's doing it because he wants to earn a fee. So therefore, you do not have to protest. He's doing the work. So the Mishnah says Shimon Gamliel used to give his the base Abba. They used to give the kalim to the non-Jewish launderer 3 days for Shabbos. I'm going to give base Abba. Lorman Elavonim. He talks about white kalim. Not color kalim. Based on our inference, we learned to derive from there. Shalavani question Shabbos just between it's harder to launder white clothing than color clothing. That's said they had to give them to the non-Jewish launderer much earlier. Okay, but Shavin, we said that both him and Beishamai agree that you can put on the weights on the press right before Shabbos. They both say, as we mentioned in the past, the moment you put the weights on, things are in flux, things are in flow, and that's considered to be sufficient that it's of a start before Shabbos. Rabbi Acha, Rabbi Yosef Boy, Rabbi Acha, Yosef Rabbi Acha Amar, Rabbi Yosef Boy, Rabbi Acha said, Rabbi Yosef asked, Mao liga ba Moshech, can you touch the wine which is flowing on Shabbos? Or is it considered being muktzah? Rabbanan Keisarin, Amen. The Rabbanan Keisarin said, "He's palgin Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yitzchak the Machlekas. Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yitzchak Yochanan Mar Oser. Yochanan said, "It's also touch that wine which is flowing." Yitzchak Amar Mutar. Yitzchak said it's permissible. Masisa Pli Rabbi Yosef Be'Chinim. However, the following brisa seems to argue Yitzchak. It says explicitly the Shelo Yiga B'Moishech that you're not allowed to touch the beverage which is flowing, even though you're allowed to put the weights in place, you're not allowed to touch whatever flows on Shabbos. Okay, it says next Mishnah, Loch Yud. Ain't in basar beitza, you cannot roast meat, onions, and eggs unless there's enough time for them to be fully roasted from before Shabbos begins. Ain't nothing as a possible. You can't put bread into the oven as night is falling, nor a cake on top of coals, unless the crust can form before Shabbos. Until the bottom can form a crust, and the question, of course, is what's considered the bottom. Rabun Bakar Shem Rabban says Gemara. Rabun Bakar Shem Rabban said, "Tavshin is basically called tzorko. If you have a cooked dish which is completely cooked, you can leave it on an oven, even if the oven has not been the coals of the oven not been covered with ashes, even at the equivalent of putting on a blech." The Rabbi Zira boy, Rabbi Zira asked Basel bake beitza. It seems that only meat, onions, and eggs you can leave on mitzamek v'ralo, because they get shriveled up and it's bad for them to remain on the stove. So therefore, you can leave it on once they're fully roasted. You can leave it on even on Shabbos. Mitzamek v'yafalo. This gets better the more you leave it on the fire. In other words, any other food. You're going to say you're going to leave it on a kirush and a ktuma. So the Gemara says Dilma. Now the Mashbiach says that this Dilma is not like the Bavli Dilma, which is perhaps it's like the Yerushalmi Dilma, which is spelled without a yud. that there was a story, a Meiser Shoyed. The problem is the Meiser Shoyed doesn't apply here. It doesn't appear here. I mean, there was Meiser Shoyed, Loy Samas Elochamin. The only thing which you're allowed to leave on the fire, which is not, which is in a group of Ena Keduma, is hot water, because hot water is it's not make ralo, as opposed to any other sub goes away, as opposed to any other substance which gets better the longer it's left on the fire. And answer Rabbi Shua came in and said, "Boy, Rabbi Zira, Zira wanted to say, even even hot water, it's completely hot. Also, just Rabbi Kira Shein Haktuma, right? You're not allowed to leave him on a Kira if it's not Gor for Kartum." Rabbi Bibi B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, "Tav Shul Shorshis Bashul Kachilas Ben Drusoi." If you have a cooked ox, which is obviously a tough meat dish, it's not a cooked machal ben drusoi. It's cooked a third of its cooking. Mutar zil gabe kira ktuma. You're allowed to put it back on a kira ktuma, on a covered fire. I think the official term in English is a banked fire. Beside kind of Rabbi Yaakov Adam B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, there's like Rabbi Yaakov Adam said the name Rabbi Yochanan. Hashayves es akdera agabe gecholin. Somebody who puts a pot on top of coals, then when you give him masimbo, they give him the hasra. Those did it amazing, and they warn him she's basho kamachol reches ben jusoy osir kabnei chases the gears to the chayev. They tell him, you know what? If you leave it on there until it gets reches ben jusoy, you're chayev because that's the point where it's cooked. And it's considered cooked, and therefore it's at that point you're can be over the malacha of bishul. Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Berchia b'Shem Rabbi Shimon Rabbi Chamin Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Chamin Rabbi Berchia b'Shem Rabbi Shimon Rabbi. Sorry, the Chamin shechmu kol tzorkon. If you have hot water, it's completely hot. Mutar zion al gabe kira she'eno ktuma. You put them back on a kira she'eno ktuma, which is like it's even going even further. We said before we're talking about leaving it on. You're talking about even putting it back. Rabbi Zira boy lishos chaser hachshemut. He says no. Just Rabbi Zira said before, you can't leave it on kira she'eno ktuma. He says you can't even leave it. You say you're going to put it back. No, it's not mutter. Dilma. And again, according to the Mashgiach here, it's without the yud. So there's a Maisa evidently, where and I don't know when the Maisa is not brought down. What it was, Lois Amis El Pischo. The only thing you're allowed to leave on the without being go for Kotum is a Korban Pesach, nothing else. The Gemara says, "As Rabbi Yaakov b'Shem Shimon Rebbe," and said this a different statement named Rabbi Shimon Rebbe one we had before. And said that Pesach Shenitza called Tzorko, a Pesach which is fully roasted. Mutar Zira Gabi Kira Shein Ktuma, you're allowed to put it back even on a Kira Shein Ktuma. We assume that the Chabura roasting the Pesach is careful not to be cholim, especially since already it's totally called Tzorko. Of course, talking about where it's Pesach on Shabbos, and therefore they have to concern us on with us to cook, so they were not concerned. Even a Kira Sheina Ktuma, certainly would not be allowed because it's a Korban Pesach. They're Zoris, they know that they're dealing with the carbon, and evidently they're going more meticulous. Okay, that brings us to the last three words on Tez Zayin and Mabez. The last two words really header for the next part of the Mishnah, so we will stop here for today.